Today, we've got the Hyundai Santa Fe Hybrid, the boxy, stylish, surprisingly roomy crossover, and we've also got the Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid, the big brother to the Toyota RAV4 and the regular Highlander, and what this thing lacks in curb appeal, it makes up for in practicality. There's a good reason that both of these vehicles are members of our year-long road test fleet, and that is because they are our two absolute favorite mid-size, three-row, slightly electrified SUVs. You know the drill by now. We're going to poke around these interiors, check out the tech, explore every seat in the house, and of course, tell you what they're like from behind the wheel, all in an effort to help you figure out which one deserves a spot in your driveway. We're Edmunds, and we test hundreds of cars each year on the road and at our private track, so you get the most trusted reviews. If you want to know which car, truck, or SUV is the best, then stick with us. Damn, it's nice in here. We've spent a ton of time in this interior because the Santa Fe is ending its year-long road test with us, and over nearly 20,000 miles, it's been through the hands of pretty much all of our staff, and we've used it as a daily commuter, carpool taker, road trip haver, anything that you want it to be. One of the things that we first noticed about the Santa Fe's interior was just how great the design was, and a year later, we still think it's pretty fantastic. And it comes down to a lot of attention to detail. So if you look at the front of the Santa Fe, it's got this very cool kind of H headlight pattern, and that gets repeated throughout the interior, on the air vents, and even on the back of the seat here. It just shows that Hyundai really cares not just about how this interior feels, but also really how it looks. And this being a top trim level of the Santa Fe, the materials definitely live up to that billing and that price tag. We were actually worried about getting a vehicle with a white interior because our Lucid, it got destroyed after a year of use. But looking around the cabin here, this upholstery has held up really well. Even this driver's seat, it isn't stained. Usually people wear jeans and it becomes blue, but here, wear and tear has really been kept to a minimum. If you're looking for your own Santa Fe, head over to Edmunds.com, where we'll even help you find the best price. Our Santa Fe comes with matching 12.3-inch displays for the instrument cluster and for the touchscreen as well. Both of them look great. The instrument cluster, it does lack some of the customization that you're going to find in other vehicles, but I do like that it presents information in a very straightforward way that's easy for the driver to digest. Now, this infotainment system is one that we have used for a while in Hyundai products, but no complaints because one, it's super easy to use, and two, I still think that it looks pretty good. The other thing that we really like about this system is that if you look just below it, there are some physical controls that actually help you navigate the tech. So they actually work together to make the experience better, starting with a dedicated home button, but I can also just bump this button here and immediately get to Apple CarPlay, which is wireless, along with Android Auto. And if we're going to talk tech, we also have to talk charging, of which there is plenty up front here in the Santa Fe. Two USB-C ports, and I like that they're both very easy to access. And right behind them, two wireless charging pads, so both people can charge their phones at the same time. Now, both of these pads also share 15 watts of power, and that's a lot more than you're getting in most charging pads, which means that your phones will actually get juice. Now, I do like that these wireless charging pads are so easy to access. There's only one drawback, and that is on a sunny day, the sun can actually shine straight down and land right here, which means two things. One, it can bounce off your phone and blind you in your eyes. And two, if it's charging wirelessly and in the sun, your phone is gonna get real hot. And one of my coworkers, they actually had to shut their phone off because it overheated on the pad. The control scheme for the most part in the Santa Fe is excellent. Physical controls for everything that you would want, just except for the climate controls, which are placed right here. Now, for controls that live in a screen, this is kind of the ideal setup because they don't do anything else. So they're still very easy to locate, and you're not going to be scrolling around to change the fan speed or turn on the ventilated seats and things like that. But given how everything else is just a nice, easy to use button, kind of a weird thing to have the climate controls be touch sensitive like that. Now, a couple of our staff members mentioned that this gear selector was a bit tough to use, and that's because one of them actually bumped it into neutral on accident with their knees, but for me, I didn't really have an issue with it. We're also big fans of the comfort of these front seats. They offer plenty of support for longer drives, but enough cushioning to still be comfortable in these headrests. They are excellent, and that's something that definitely doesn't stick out in every vehicle that we test. You're also getting heating and ventilation in these seats up front, and as a bonus, if you have to sit in the car and wait for your kids to finish soccer practice, there's actually a little piece under here that folds out that turns these front seats into a recliner. In an interior that we like so much, it's hard to nail down one thing as your favorite, but there's one thing that I think the Santa Fe is exceptional at, and it's easily my favorite thing about it, and that is small item storage. It's got literally everything that you would want. Big door pockets, it's got a shelf here in front of the passenger, it's got this other space even where you can put your phone in it and it'll disinfect it with UV rays. You've got a big tray here, 2 wireless charging pads, a space down here, and a really big and deep center console. And on top of that, these cup holders are also gigantic. They will fit not only a giant water bottle, they will also fit our nice blue cup. Oh, and one more bonus, this center console is not only accessible from the front, from the back here, or down here. So if you're trying to hide snacks from your kids, you're gonna have to put them somewhere else. Now, room in the second row is also excellent. This seat is actually back of where I like to drive, and as you can see, plenty of legroom and headroom. And we also like that the materials quality doesn't dip from the front to the back. There's this cool suede-like headliner that stretches all the way from the dashboard to the tailgate. Now, these seats themselves, not quite as supportive as the fronts. They are a bit flat, so you do slide around a bit if you're being driven around. But we like that these armrests can go down and have many, many, many settings on the way up, so you can find just the one that you like. These also have power adjustments, which does mean that they take a little bit longer to fold down than normal, but it also means that if you're lazy, you don't have to do any of that work yourself. Now, a second row that's very roomy for adults also offers plenty of room for car seats, 2 lower latch anchors here that are easy to access, and an upper one as well. And also plenty of forward and rear travel, which means that if you have a rear-facing car seat, you can put it on this seat and not have that person sitting with their knees in the dashboard. Lastly, there are USB charge ports for every seat. So that means 2 in the second row, 2 more in the third row. And I also really like one feature that Hyundai does in a lot of their SUVs, and that is they put an extra set of controls right here. So if you're sitting in the second row and you need to move the passenger seat forward, I can do so. Within the category of mid-sized 3-row SUVs, there have been traditionally 2 groups. There are the bigs, which are things like the Palisade, the Telluride, and the Grand Highlander. And then there are the smalls, things like the Santa Fe and the Kia Sorento. But in its latest redesign, the Santa Fe actually grew enough that even though it's got small dimensions, it's actually got very big insides. If you measure from the dashboard to the tailgate, it's actually a hair longer than the Palisade, and that means that adults can easily fit in this third row, and the Santa Fe passes the 3 Brian's test with flying colors. I'm just under 6 feet tall. I put the driver's seat where I like to drive, this seat where I'm comfortable, and as you can see, third row, plenty of legroom and headroom. If there's one thing I don't like about the third row, the seat is a little bit low, so my knees are a touch high, but otherwise, you can easily fit adults back here for even a road trip. Now, you're also gonna get plenty of amenities in the third row as well, 2 USB charge ports, as well as a household charging outlet, so you can charge a laptop or a game console. And weirdly, if you're looking for climate controls in the back of the Santa Fe, they're only here in the third row. The second row air vents are tied to the front, but you do get the chance to adjust your fan speed here, but temperature, you're gonna be depending on your friends. The Santa Fe's expansive passenger room does, however, come at the expense of cargo room. Only 14.6 cubic feet behind this third row, which means you can fit a carry-on and a backpack, but this big boy has absolutely no chance of fitting at all. Now, the nice thing is, though, that these third row seats, they do fold down to create a pretty flat load floor, and there are 2 buttons there. The second row is, again, powered. You can drop all the seats from the back here without having to walk around the car, and that's nice. And the cargo opening is super wide. You'll notice these giant struts on the tailgate. They're pushed out to allow you to fit bigger items without issue. So the Santa Fe hybrid from behind the wheel, the operative word is smoothness. Now, this powertrain, 8.3 seconds from 0 to 60 miles an hour, which is not quick, but you're probably not buying one of these for speed anyway. And most importantly, when you're driving around town or on the street, it feels pretty robust at low speeds, so you never feel sluggish getting away from a stoplight or a stop sign. Where you do wish for a bit more power is when you're getting on the highway or if you're doing any kind of passing. You do have to get pretty far into the throttle, and it gets kind of loud as the engine ramps up. But other than that, I would say that the powertrain works well enough. The ride quality is good, but not great. There is a bit of lumpiness to the ride. So when you're going over some bumps, you can definitely feel the suspension kind of going like this a bit, but it doesn't ever really feel harsh. And when you're going over potholes, it actually deals with those quite well. I like that the Santa Fe has resisted the thing that a lot of SUVs suffer from, and that is to put gigantic wheels on them, because they do look good, but then it reduces the amount of sidewall that you have on the tire. The tires on these are still fairly chunky, and that just helps everything feel a touch better. For the most part, this cabin is pretty quiet. There's not a lot of wind noise. The only thing that really intrudes is the amount of engine noise that you get when you're passing, but if you're just cruising along, it's serene as can be. Now, the driver aids on this vehicle, they are excellent. This has highway drive assist too, and that does an excellent job of lane centering. So if you're using the adaptive cruise control on the highway, it doesn't bounce between the lane markers. It just keeps you going arrow straight, and that gives you more confidence in the system. It will also do automatic lane changes for you, although the system is a bit conservative and takes a bit of time to sort of make up its mind when it wants to move over. So it's cool that it can do it, but in general, you just sort of end up doing it yourself anyway. We also like that this vehicle comes with a blind spot monitor that appears here in the cluster. So if I activate my turn signal, you can see the camera turn on. And that's very helpful because you do have decently sized blind spots over both shoulders. The C-pillars, they look great, but they are a little bit chunky. Otherwise though, natural visibility is pretty good. You have large windows front and rear, so no real problems seeing out of this thing except for those blind spots. Now, the most disappointing aspect about the Santa Fe is related to driving, maybe not how it drives, but it's its fuel economy. We expected to get in the mid-30s with this vehicle, but over the course of its year with us, it has not even come close to that. Even on its best fill, we're still looking in the low 30s, and overall, it's only gotten 27.5 mpg over 20,000 miles with us. And yes, that is better than gas versions of these three-row midsize SUVs, but for a hybrid, when you're expecting in the mid-30s and you only get something in like the mid-20s, just feels pretty bad. Overall, there is a lot to like with the Santa Fe, and I think that there's one thing that I can tell you that's a big ringing endorsement of this vehicle, and that's the fact that in its year with us, this was the vehicle of choice for our staff. If you had to do a road trip, that you need to take the family or the friends anywhere far, this was the thing that we reached for the keys for the most, and in that way, it tells you just how well-rounded and good it is. That means that the Grand Highlander is definitely going to have its work cut out for it. Let's check it out. This thing is spacious, comfy, practical, and efficient. All the things that you would want from a family SUV, but it's not perfect. Now this is what I'm talking about. Physical controls for all the different climate functions, including the heated and ventilated seats, and a personal favorite of mine, a hardwired camera button right here, just like in the Santa Fe. You're also getting a pretty decently sized touchscreen here in the Santa Fe, and unlike some other Toyota products that are also part of our year-long road test fleet, 4Runner, the screen doesn't look like a tablet that's been pasted onto the dashboard. This one is well integrated, and I also really like the position of it. It's very easy to reach from either seat. The software is intuitive and easy to use when you're on the road. The downside, though, of this infotainment system is that Toyota is going to charge you a subscription to use the voice commands and the maps, and then they're going to charge you a separate data subscription if you want to use any streaming services like Apple Music or Spotify. Thankfully, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are both here, so you can just connect your phone, and we would really suggest doing that over paying the subscriptions, because even though subscriptions are the future, that future sucks. The only part of this interior that is tricky to use is the gauge cluster. Now, it does offer you a bit more customizability than you're getting in the Santa Fe, but setting it up can be really difficult, and it does try to display a bit too much information, so it can get a bit cluttered. The reason though this is important is because if you want to adjust any of the safety features on the Grand Highlander, you can't do it through this screen. You actually have to do it through the cluster, and because it's so cumbersome to use, it's tough. Small item storage in the Grand Highlander is pretty good. You're getting a rather large bin up here with only one wireless charging pad though, and Toyota, they were the pioneers of the shelf in front of the front passenger, so you get a pretty good sized shelf right here as well, and big door pockets. This center bin is pretty large, but can only be opened from the front, so the second row passengers won't have access to it. Now, there are technically 2 cup holders, even though it kind of looks like 3. This is actually a great place to put a wallet, keys, things like that. The thing is though, these cup holders, they aren't the biggest. As you can see, they don't quite fit our big water bottle, but they do fit our big, very not dumb cup. Now, when it comes to charging options in the Grand Highlander, it's true. You are down one wireless charging pad, but you do get an extra USB-C port, and it's located over in front of the passenger, so you're not running cables all over the cabin, and I think that I actually prefer that setup. And if you're sitting in the passenger seat, you also get a tiny storage bin right next to your leg. Super useful. While the Grand Highlander might not have the styling cohesion that you're finding in the Santa Fe, it is a rather nice cabin. We do like the materials. All the touch points feel great. And even though there is use of plastic, it is nicely grained, except for this egregiously bad carbon fiber. I have no idea what they were doing with that. Seats themselves are quite comfortable. Enough bolstering here to really keep you supported. And even though I prefer the headrests in the Santa Fe, if you could take those headrests and these seats, you'd have almost a perfect seat. Now, it's worth mentioning that this Grand Highlander that we have is not the top spec. It's actually one down, but it's still quite well equipped. You're getting heated and ventilated front seats here, as well as heated second row seats, just like we got in the Hyundai. Now, when we were talking about the roominess of the Santa Fe, we had to issue plenty of caveats, things like, oh, it's big for a small SUV. No such qualifiers here in the Grand Highlander. It is just big all around. Here in the second row is where you really start to feel the roominess. Tons of headroom. Weirdly, no sunroof though, but really big windows, so you have great visibility no matter where you're sitting. Now, a lot of the features that you're going to find here in the Grand Highlander, they are on parity with what we found in the Hyundai, but I think that they are better placed here in the Toyota. For example, the household outlet. Being in the third row, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense there. It makes more sense to put it here where you're going to have better access to it. And in the Toyota, you're also getting actual climate controls. You don't just get to control fan speed, you can change the temperature, all that good stuff right here. And also in the Toyota, you're getting this nice little console right here, which you can lift out if you don't want to use it. But this is a great place for kids to put things that they need to. And these pockets especially are great for a tablet. They're rubberized so they won't slide around. Now, when it comes to car seats, the Grand Highlander is better in that its lower latch anchors, they are easier to access. In the Hyundai, you have to dig into the cushions a bit. The only downside is that if you get to the third row, there's only an upper latch anchor on the passenger side, so you couldn't put a car seat on the driver's side in the third row. Oh, and one final thing, this armrest, only one setting, darn. Here's where the fact that the Grand Highlander Hybrid is about 11 inches longer than the Santa Fe really comes into play, because this third row is absolutely expansive, tons of legroom, tons of headroom. I do wish that it was a bit easier to get this seat to move out of the way. It's gonna be tough for a kid to operate. There's one latch that you pull, but it's kind of hard. Once the seat is out of the way though, it's very easy to climb into the third row, and you get an extra seat back here. So this has seating for 7 instead of 6. I also like that the air vents are truly in the ceiling and not kind of shoulder level like they are in the Hyundai. And again, you're gonna get USB ports back here for charging, and a much larger bin here that actually has not 2, but 3 cup holders on either side. So whatever kind of juice you got back here, you're gonna have room for it. The Grand Highlander enjoys a grand advantage over the Santa Fe when it comes to cargo room. As you can see behind the third row, we were easily able to fit all of our bags. In fact, it's got about 40% more cargo room behind its third row than the Hyundai. And when you fold down those third row seats, the advantage grows even more. 16 extra cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row. And again, you're just gonna get a ton more space here in the Toyota. This is really why the Grand Highlander exists. It's because the Highlander, it was really too small to be practical, and you couldn't fit adults in the third row, but there are no such space limitations here in the Grand Highlander. Now, neither of these SUVs has great storage beneath the cargo floor, but at least in the Grand Highlander, there's a place for you to put the cargo cover. So if you do need covered storage to hide valuables, you can do that without having to leave that thing behind in the garage. The only thing that's worse about this cargo area is that there are no releases for the second row back here, so you're gonna have to walk around a few times to put those seats down. Behind the wheel of the Grand Highlander Hybrid, and you actually have to be a bit more specific when you say that, because this vehicle offers not just one, but 2 hybrid powertrains, one focused on efficiency and the other one, the one we have here, focused on performance. Now, this is the Hybrid Max powertrain, and yes, that's a bit of a silly name, but there is nothing silly about what this vehicle can do, because at the Edmunds test track, it put up a 0 to 60 mile an hour time right around 6 seconds, and that is quite quick for a 3-row SUV, and it's over 2 seconds quicker than what the Santa Fe did, and you definitely feel a difference on the road. This thing gets up and goes at any speed. It has plenty of power and it feels like it's on tap at all times. Whereas in the Santa Fe, you had to really get into the pedal to do any passing or get on the highway. This thing, it's got way more power than honestly it knows what to do with, and it makes it feel more confident driving around town or even on a long trip. Also, Toyota's know-how with hybrid systems really comes through. This thing is very smooth when it comes to accelerating, but especially when it comes to braking, those transitions are seamless. Great job from Toyota for calibrating this thing to be just absolutely easy to drive. The ride quality in this is, I would say, a touch above what you're getting in the Santa Fe as well. It doesn't feel quite as loose. There's a bit more tightness to it, but that tightness doesn't translate to any harshness on the road, and it's a bit more composed when you're going through turns as well. If I had to drive one of these on a canyon road, it would definitely be the Toyota. Now, when it comes to advanced driver aids, the Toyota is basically on par with the Hyundai. The only thing that it lacks is a blind spot monitor camera, but you don't really need it as much here because this vehicle has better natural visibility. The blind spots are a bit smaller and the mirrors are well positioned, so it's easy to just check those things on your own. The only thing that's a little bit weird is Toyota has this sort of predictive driving assist system where if it detects a car ahead of you slowing down or braking or a curve in the road, it's gonna kind of bring the car down slowly in speed, and some people don't like that, and if you don't like it, you can always just shut it off. If you want to maximize your fuel economy with the Grand Highlander hybrid, you should go with that less powerful hybrid system. It's rated at 34 combined mpg, and that is, again, what the Santa Fe should have gotten, but in its time with us, the Santa Fe only got about 27, and that is what this powertrain is rated at. Now, we don't know how this thing is going to do over the next 12 months, so please stick with us if you want to find out. But if it can hit its EPA rating, it will match what the Santa Fe gives you, but also with the benefit of a lot of added performance. After spending time with the Grand Highlander, it's impressive in the same way that the Santa Fe is, but it goes about its business a little bit differently. The Hyundai is a bit loud with its styling and how everything kind of matches, but in the Toyota, it's a bit more austere, but it's just a bigger vehicle and it makes use of that space for passengers and cargo alike. So if your family is on the larger side or if you're going to use that third row often, I think that there are definite clear advantages that the Grand Highlander has over the Santa Fe. Before we get into value and pick our winner, if you're enjoying this video and find them valuable, please toss us a like and subscribe. They go a long way towards helping us make more of them. And if there's anything that you think we missed or other comparisons you want to see, let us know in the comments below, because for better or worse, we read them all. Or my horribly underpaid assistant does. Okay, now pricing. You can get into a Santa Fe hybrid for just under $40,000. And our basically fully loaded model, it came out to just over 50 grand. And for that money, you're getting a ton with the Santa Fe, both in terms of features, in terms of refinement, in terms of it being comfortable, smooth, big enough for families. It's just a ton of value baked into that price. And you can't talk about any Hyundai without mentioning its best-in-class basic and powertrain warranties. So while the Santa Fe costs 50 grand, it feels like you're getting 60 grand worth of stuff. Now, the Toyota. It costs more to get into. It starts at around 40,000, and this example is about 57,000, about 6 grand more than the Santa Fe, and this isn't even the top trim level. You can go even higher. With this vehicle, what you're really paying for is the extra size. If you're going to use the third row often, or if you're going to carry a bunch of cargo, the Toyota is worth the extra money because it's just simply going to fit more people and things inside of it. And even though this isn't a top trim level, it's still got pretty good materials and lots of refinement. For non-luxury SUVs, both vehicles really deliver when it comes to having an upscale cabin. Now, the Toyota's warranty isn't going to match the Hyundai, but it also does come with 2 years of free maintenance. And if you want a Grand Highlander that actually has value, we would suggest stepping down to the other hybrid powertrain where, yes, you're going to lose some power and speed, but you're going to gain in efficiency and save about 3 grand on the sticker price. Usually in these value sections, I come away with some sticker shock at what modern vehicles cost. But in the case of these two, I think you're actually getting plenty for your money, no matter which one you choose. To declare a winner, we are going to turn to the fabled Edmunds rating. And on that metric, the Grand Highlander ekes out a win over the Santa Fe, which makes sense given that this vehicle won an Edmunds Top Rated Best SUV award earlier this year. The Toyota's spaciousness, practicality, and excellent hybrid powertrain helped carry it to the win. But I have to say that after spending time with both of these for this video, I've come away with even more respect for the Hyundai. I totally understand why you'd want the Toyota if you're gonna need the room, but if you're not going to use the third row often, or if design is important to you, which it is to me as you can tell by my very fancy t-shirt, the Hyundai is really gonna have some appeal that the Toyota just doesn't. So if you wanna save some money and look better doing it, get the Hyundai, but if you gotta fit a bunch of kids in the backseat all the time, go with the Toyota, and either way, you're gonna be pretty happy, and I'm just happy that you came along on this adventure with us. Thanks for watching.